Welcome back to the deep dive. If you spend even 5 minutes scrolling LinkedIn or just browsing the business section of a bookstore, you get hit with this very specific, very loud frequency.
Oh, totally. The startup noise.
Exactly. It's all about the launch, how to get that side hustle off the ground in 48 hours, or how to go viral, how to, print your first $10,000.
Right. It's the 0 to 1 obsession. And I mean, it makes sense why that content dominates because it's thrilling. The beginning is where all the potential energy is. It's just pure optimism.
Completely. But today we're pivoting. We are ignoring the whole how to start noise to look at a much more, well, uncomfortable reality for a lot of people.
Yeah, we are.
We're unpacking this fascinating source material called The Architect's Dilemma, from revenue generation to financial resilience. And the central thesis here is probably going to annoy a lot of growth hackers out there.
It definitely will.
Because it argues that in today's digital economy, making money is actually the easy part. The hard part and the real reason so many apparently successful six-figure ventures just quietly implode is what happens after the money arrives.
Yeah. And that claim right there, that making money is easy, that usually gets people immediately defensive.
Oh, for sure.
But we really have to look at the context. Compared to 20 or even 10 years ago, the friction is just gone. You don't need a bank loan anymore. You don't need a physical storefront. You don't even need inventory.
You really don't. I mean, you can spin up a Shopify instance, plug in a drop shipper, and start running ads on social media marketplaces all before lunch.
Exactly. Anyone with basic skills can monetize quickly on platforms like Etsy or Upwork. The democratization of income generation is very real.
And this is the big gap the material highlights. While income generation has been democratized, financial discipline has not.
That is the core issue. We have this whole generation of entrepreneurs who are, frankly, excellent at customer acquisition, but they are terrible at capital allocation.
Right, they have the technical skills to get the cash in the door.
But they rarely have a plan for those funds. They view the cash through entirely the wrong lens. They see it as winnings rather than fuel for the business.
And that's the mission for our deep dive today. We want to explore why early revenue is often this dangerous illusion of success and how to unpack the mental model you need to survive it, moving from just generating cash to actually architecting resilience.
Because early revenue wins usually mask a very fragile business foundation. It's like a false summit on a mountain.
Right.
You hike up, you think you've made it because your bank balance jumped, but you are actually standing on a very fragile ledge without a structural plan. It's a setup for failure.
Let's get into that fragility, because the source material identifies 3 specific traps that founders fall into immediately after they start making money. And trap number 1 is heavily psychological. The text calls it the psychology of lifestyle expansion.
Yeah, this is basically Parkinson's law applied to personal finance. Work expands to fill the time available. Well, in this case, spending expands to match the income available.
And the material notes a really distinct shift in behavior here. Like in the early months, founders are resourceful, right? They hustle.
They're checking every software subscription, negotiating every little expense.
But then the money flows, and they stop treating revenue as fuel and start treating it as personal income.
It's the validation effect. When revenue jumps from, say, hundreds of dollars a month to thousands, founders feel validated. They sincerely believe the struggle phase is over.
I've seen this happen so many times. You've been grinding, and suddenly there's actual cash, so you feel like, hey, I deserve this.
Right, and the text lists really specific spending traps here. It's not always buying a yacht. It's subtler. It's buying better gadgets, upgrading to premium software subscriptions you don't really need yet, or taking on unnecessary office expenses.
Getting that nice co-working space just for the aesthetic.
Exactly. And the material emphasizes a missing step here, which they call the strategic pause.
I found that concept really interesting. What exactly is the strategic pause?
It's a disciplined pause where you force yourself to stop and ask, is the business structurally ready for this level of spending?
So it's about not reacting immediately to a good month.
Precisely. If you hit a new revenue high, you do nothing with that extra money for a set period. You wait to see if that revenue is actually a permanent baseline or just a random variance.
Because if it's just a variance and you went out and signed a lease,
You're in trouble. Because you just turned variable revenue into fixed personal costs.
that is such a killer. Which leads us right into trap number 2. And this one is insidious because it actually looks and feels like you're just doing good business. It's hiring. Or as the text puts it, moving from agile to fragile.
This is probably the most common way seemingly successful businesses die.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second. The allure of hiring is huge. It feels like progress. It feels like legitimacy, like you finally feel like a real CEO when you have a team.
It definitely feels good. But the text warns us about the fixed cost danger here. Payroll is not flexible. It is a fixed recurring commitment that compounds your monthly pressure.
So you're trading a temporary problem, which is being too busy, for a permanent financial obligation.
Exactly. And these hiring decisions are so often driven by emotional optimism rather than actual financial readiness. Founders hire because they feel overwhelmed today, not because they have stable unit economics.
Right, stable unit economics. That means actually knowing if your profit margin on each sale can support that new salary over the long term, not just this month.
And that's where the structural shift happens. The text uses a great phrase for this. The business quietly shifts from agile to fragile.
Agile to fragile.
Yeah. What was once this really lean, adaptable operation suddenly becomes this heavy, rigid structure, and now it requires constant high revenue just to survive.
You build a machine that has to be fed.
Constantly.
Okay, so that brings us to trap number 3, which is misinterpreting the flow. This is all about taxes and revenue spikes.
The wave effect.
Right. Digital income, especially today, it arrives in uneven waves. It is almost never a smooth line up and to the right.
But human nature wants it to be smooth, so we get what the material calls the forecasting error.
Break that down for us.
A founder has a massive month. Let's say a launch goes incredibly well. The common mistake is they interpret that temporary spike as permanent, guaranteed growth. So they commit to recurring expenses based on their absolute best month rather than their average performance.
They assume every month is going to be a record breaker.
Exactly. And that naturally leads to the tax blind spot.
Oh, the silent partner. This is where so many first-time founders get wiped out.
It really is. There is a huge tendency to underestimate tax obligations or simply fail to set aside reserves for them.
Because they see that big deposit and think it's all theirs.
Right. They spend it on lifestyle or even reinvest it back into the business, forgetting the government is going to ask for a large chunk of that gross profit next year. And when the revenue cycle normalizes or dips, they face a massive cash crisis.
They literally have to take out loans to pay taxes on money they already spent.
Which is a death spiral. And this is where the text contrasts weak businesses with healthy businesses.
Okay, let's talk about that distinction. Weak businesses extract cash too early.
Exactly. They pull the money out for personal reward prematurely. Healthy businesses, on the other hand, recycle their earnings. They understand the difference between spending and true reinvestment.
And the material actually lists specific examples of where healthy businesses reinvest that money, right?
Yes, it's a very intentional list. They put funds into building marketing systems, they invest in process automation.
So things that reduce the need to hire immediately.
Precisely. They also invest in product improvement, building out reliable customer acquisition engines, and of course, building financial buffers.
Which is the perfect pivot to the solution part of this deep dive. We've covered the traps, the lifestyle expansion, the premature hiring, the forecasting, and tax errors.
It's a minefield.
It really is.
Yeah.
But the source material doesn't just leave us with the doom and gloom. It outlines a completely new mental model for operators today.
And it starts with a fundamental mindset shift regarding revenue. You have to stop viewing revenue as success.
Revenue is not success.
No, you need to view it simply as raw material.
I love that analogy. It's like having lumber drops off at a construction site. Having the wood doesn't mean you have a house. It's just raw material to be allocated.
That is exactly the mindset. The core problem for most founders is they lack a mental model for that allocation. So how does a sustainable operator actually think?
Yeah, let's walk through that. The material outlines something called the allocation hierarchy.
Yeah.
It's basically an ordered list of exactly where a dollar should go when it enters the business.
Right. It's a 5-step hierarchy, and order is everything here.
Let's do it. Step 1,
Step 1 is supporting operations.
keeping the lights on.
Exactly. You have to
Yeah.
pay for the servers, the essential software, the key contractors. If the base operation stops, the business dies.
Makes sense. Step 2.
Step 2 is covering taxes.
And this is usually where people mess up because they put this last.
Completely. A sustainable operator moves the estimated tax percentage into a separate, totally untouchable account the moment the revenue clears. It's not your money.
Treat it like a toll you have to pay just to use the road. Okay, step 3,
Step 3 is building reserves.
building the buffer.
Yes. This is about cash visibility. You need a clear view of your cash flow, and you must maintain conservative expense growth until you have a reserve built up.
And the material has a really great maxim for this. Durable companies build bunkers before they build lifestyles.
It's the ultimate defense mechanism. You need a financial cushion to survive the inevitable dips.
Okay, so once the operations are funded, the taxes are set aside, and the reserve buffer is built, what is step 4?
Step 4 is funding growth.
Now we can finally run the ads and hire the people.
Now you can, because you are doing it from a position of absolute stability. If a marketing campaign fails or a new hire doesn't work out, it doesn't sink the ship. You just tap the brakes because your foundation is secure.
Which leaves us with the final step. Step 5.
Step 5 is rewarding the owner.
The owner gets paid last.
Only after the business is structurally sound, taxes are paid, reserves are full, and growth is funded. Only then do you extract the surplus for personal lifestyle expansion.
That requires an incredible amount of discipline, especially when you see your peers on social media buying new cars after one good quarter.
It's incredibly difficult, but that is the entire point of this mental model. The game isn't about launching the fastest or selling the most volume in month 1.
Right.
It is entirely about having the discipline to manage and allocate the resources you generate.
And that brings us to the core takeaway of this whole deep dive. The material makes this bold claim at the end. It says the real modern competitive advantage isn't a clever marketing hack.
No. The real competitive advantage is the ability to control, protect, and strategically deploy your income. It's financial resilience.
Financial resilience. If you are listening to this right now, whether you are a freelancer just starting out or you're running a scaling startup, the fundamental truth remains the same. Businesses rarely die because they never made money.
They die because they mishandled the money they made.
Exactly. They choke on their own early success.
Because they confused a spike in cash flow with a durable foundation.
So, as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something that really challenges the standard narrative we hear all the time.
Let's hear it.
We are always told that failure is the great teacher, right? That you learn from your mistakes. But consider this. Early success is actually the most dangerous moment for a new business.
Because it creates confidence without stability.
Exactly. It tricks you into thinking you are a genius when you might just be riding a temporary wave. So ask yourself, look at your own ventures right now. Are you currently celebrating a win that is actually quietly exposing you to catastrophic risk down the line?
That is a question every founder needs to ask themselves on a regular basis.
It really is. It forces you to be the architect, not just the salesperson. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.